Section 1. ATF and the Case of the Vanishing Deference. Buckle up, it's about to get lit. Hello there, fellow Americans. Welcome to a deep dive into a topic that's not just timely, but also incredibly impactful. Tonight's topic is one that's near and dear to many of your hearts. Guns. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about firearms, a subject that stirs up a lot of emotions and opinions across the country. Specifically, we're diving headfirst into the wild world of the ATF. That's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, for those of you who don't spend your weekends brushing up on your federal agencies. This agency plays a crucial role in regulating and enforcing laws related to these items. Now, you might be thinking, John, the ATF? That sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry. And you know what? You're not entirely wrong. The intricacies of federal agencies can often seem mundane and tedious. And you know what? You're not entirely wrong. But here's the kicker. The ATF is at the center of some of the most heated debates in our nation. From gun control to enforcement of federal laws, their actions have far-reaching consequences. But trust me on this one, folks, because things are about to get interesting. We're not just talking about routine operations here. We're diving into a legal battle that could reshape the landscape of federal authority. You see, the Supreme Court recently dropped a bombshell of a ruling that has sent shockwaves through the ATF and beyond. This isn't just another day at the office for them, it's a game changer. We're talking about the Chevron doctrine, a legal principle that's about as dry as a saltine cracker but has massive implications for how the government, and especially the ATF, gets to do its job. This doctrine essentially allows federal agencies to interpret ambiguous laws, giving them significant power. So grab your popcorn, folks, because we're about to break down this legal thriller in a way that even your goldfish could understand. We're going to explore what the Chevron doctrine is, why it matters, and how the recent Supreme Court ruling could change everything. Imagine a world where federal agencies have less power to interpret laws. What would that mean for the ATF's ability to regulate firearms? How would it impact other agencies and their enforcement capabilities? These are the questions we're going to tackle. The Supreme Court's decision could lead to a significant shift in how laws are enforced in this country. It could mean more power for the courts and less for the agencies. This is a pivotal moment in the balance of power between the branches of government. We'll take a look at the history of the Chevron doctrine, how it came to be, and why it's been so influential. We'll also examine the arguments for and against it, and what the future might hold. So, stay tuned because this is more than just a legal discussion. It's a story about power, control, and the future of our nation's laws. Whether you're a legal expert or just someone interested in the workings of our government, this is something you won't want to miss. Buckle up, because it's about to get lit. Section 2. Chevron, the ATF's all-purpose legal Swiss Army knife until now. Picture this. It's 1984. The air is filled with the sound of synthesizers, and the streets are bustling with people sporting neon colors and big hair. It's a time of cultural revolution and political change. Ronald Reagan is president, leg warmers are all the rage, and a little-known court case called Chevron USA, Inc. v. Natural Resources Defense Council, Inc. makes its grand debut. This case would go on to shape the landscape of administrative law in ways no one could have predicted. This case, my friends, gave birth to the Chevron doctrine, a legal principle that's about as exciting as a tax audit, but has had a bigger impact on government regulation than a flock of pigeons on a freshly washed car. The Chevron doctrine essentially became the cornerstone of how courts interpret ambiguous laws. In a nutshell, the Chevron doctrine basically said that when a law written by Congress is a bit vague, and let's be honest, when is it not, courts should defer to the relevant government agency's interpretation of that law, as long as it's reasonable. This principle gave agencies like the ATF a significant amount of power to interpret and enforce laws in ways they saw fit. Think of it like this. Congress is the parent who leaves a vaguely worded chore list on the fridge. The note might say something like, "Clean your room," but it doesn't specify what clean actually means. The ATF is the teenager trying to interpret "clean your room" as shove everything under the bed. They might think they're doing a great job, but the definition of clean is pretty flexible. And the Chevron doctrine? Well, it's the lenient grandparent who says, "Oh, let them be, it's close enough." This leniency allowed agencies to operate with a broad scope of discretion, often leading to interpretations that could stretch the original intent of the law. Over the years, This doctrine has been both praised and criticized. Supporters argue that it allows experts within agencies to make informed decisions without constant judicial interference. Critics, however, claim it gives too much power to unelected officials, leading to potential overreach and lack of accountability. The Chevron doctrine has been a double-edged sword. On one hand, it has streamlined the regulatory process, making it easier for agencies to implement and enforce laws. On the other hand, it has sometimes led to controversial interpretations that have sparked public outcry and legal challenges. Recently, however, the Chevron doctrine has come under increased scrutiny. Courts are beginning to question whether this level of deference is still appropriate in today's complex legal landscape. Some legal experts believe we may be on the brink of a significant shift in how administrative law is interpreted. So what does this mean for the future? If the Chevron doctrine is weakened or overturned, it could lead to a more stringent review of agency decisions by the courts. This could fundamentally change the balance of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. The ATF, along with other agencies, may find themselves navigating a new legal landscape where their interpretations are no longer given the same level of deference. This could lead to more legal battles and a slower regulatory process, but it could also ensure that laws are applied more consistently and transparently. Only time will tell how this legal saga unfolds. One thing is certain, though. The days of the Chevron doctrine being the all-purpose legal Swiss Army knife for agencies like the ATF may be numbered. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this evolving story. Section 3. ATF, regulating gunpowder to ghost guns since 1972. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, commonly known as the ATF, has been at the forefront of regulating some of the most dangerous and controversial items in American society. Now let's talk about the ATF. This agency, established in 1972, has a broad and challenging mandate. They are responsible for enforcing federal laws related to alcohol, tobacco, firearms, explosives, and arson. These folks have the unenviable task of regulating things that go boom, things you shouldn't smoke, and things that can cause significant harm if mishandled. Their work involves meticulous inspections and rigorous enforcement to ensure public safety. Things that get you drunk, like alcohol, which they regulate to prevent illegal production and distribution. The ATF ensures that alcohol is produced and sold according to federal laws, preventing bootlegging and ensuring consumer safety. And of course, things that shoot bullets. Firearms regulation is perhaps the most high-profile aspect of their work. They oversee the sale, possession, and transportation of firearms and ammunition, working tirelessly to prevent illegal gun trafficking and misuse. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. The agents undergo extensive training and face numerous challenges daily, from dealing with complex legal issues to confronting dangerous situations in the field. And for decades, the Chevron doctrine has been the ATF's best friend. This legal principle allows federal agencies like the ATF to interpret ambiguous laws and create regulations based on their expertise. See, gun laws are often as clear as mud. The legal landscape surrounding firearms is incredibly complex, with numerous statutes and regulations that can be difficult to navigate. I mean, have you ever tried to decipher the NFA of 1934? The National Firearms Act of 1934 is one of the oldest and most intricate pieces of gun legislation in the United States, and understanding it requires a deep knowledge of legal jargon and historical context. It's enough to make your head spin faster than a squirrel on a sugar rush. The sheer volume of legal text and the complexity of the language can be overwhelming for anyone not well versed in legal matters. But thanks to Chevron, the ATF has had a surprising amount of leeway in interpreting those laws and creating regulations. This flexibility has allowed them to adapt to new challenges and technologies in the firearms industry. From bump stocks to pistol braces, the ATF has relied on Chevron to justify its rulemaking on everything from the type of guns you can own to the modifications you can make to them. The ATF's interpretations have often been controversial, sparking debates and legal battles. However, their goal remains the same: to protect public safety while balancing the rights of gun owners. To the accessories you can put on them. The ATF's work is never done as they continue to navigate the evolving landscape of firearms regulation, ensuring that laws keep pace with technological advancements and societal changes. Section 4. SCOTUS drops the hammer, Chevron gets Chev-Wronged. Fast forward to 2023, and the Supreme Court decides to throw a wrench in the works. In the case of, the court decided to pump the brakes on the whole Chevron deference thing. They basically said, hold on a minute, agencies. You can't just go around interpreting laws however you like, especially when it comes to really important stuff. This ruling was like a legal earthquake, shaking the foundations of regulatory power in Washington. And for the ATF, it was like finding out your favorite all-you-can-eat buffet had closed down. Section 5 ATF after Chevron. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, unless the law is unclear. So, what does this all mean for our friends at the ATF? Well, for starters, it means they're going to have to get used to a whole lot more scrutiny. No more because we said so justifications for their regulations. The courts are now going to be looking much more closely at whether the ATF's rules actually align with what Congress wrote in the law. Think of it like this. The ATF used to have a hall pass to interpret the law broadly. Now they're going to need a permission slip signed by both parents, Congress, and the courts for every little thing. Section 6, from alphabet soup to agency anxiety, the Fed's on edge. And it's not just the ATF that's feeling the heat. Oh no, my friends, this Chevron shakeup has sent ripples of anxiety through every government agency in Washington. From the EPA to the FCC, agencies are sweating bullets, worried that their own regulations might be next on the chopping block. It's like a game of legal musical chairs, and nobody wants to be the one left standing when the music stops. Section 7. Congress time to wake up and smell the legislation. But here's the thing, this whole Chevron mess could have been avoided if Congress had just done its job in the first place. I mean, let's be honest, folks. Congress is notorious for writing laws that are about as clear as a mud wrestling competition. And then they have the audacity to act surprised when agencies like the ATF struggle to figure out what those laws actually mean. So Congress, if you're listening, here's a radical idea. How about you start writing laws that are actually clear and concise? You know, laws that even a reasonably intelligent goldfish could understand. Section 8. Gun owners, hooray for clarity, but don't celebrate just yet. Now, for all you gun owners out there, I know what you're thinking. This is it. The ATF is finally going down. And while it's true that this Supreme Court ruling could lead to some ATF regulations being overturned, I wouldn't start planning any victory parades just yet. See, even with Chevron on the ropes, the ATF still has a lot of power when it comes to regulating firearms. Plus, this whole legal battle is far from over. We're talking about a process that moves slower than a snail in a snowstorm.